And with that, I think we've got everything to get started here. No class change run. Coming to you in 3, 2, 1, go. So first things first, let's get some weapons. Go ahead and grab a hammer for our white mage, 3 rapiers for everybody else. 3 sets of chainmail over here. And we'll need some spells. We're gonna get Cure for everybody except for the fighter. And we'll get Dia for Dan, because Dan deserves it. Hey, Epic Name Bro, welcome in. Not enough Pedros. There'll definitely be way too much Pedro by the end of this one. He's gonna have a lot of pressure on him tonight. Starting right away with having to rescue this Sarah girl. Not sure if she even exists. Possibly just made up to lure us into Garland's clutches. We'll head on over to fight Garland here. We've got to get level 2 along the way. So I'll be looking for either 11 imps or something better in terms of experience. I go back and forth about whether I want to do these imp fights or not. You can get faster battles if you get lucky along the way, like you get like a mad pony or a creep or something. But you often have to sit there grinding for a little bit because you don't quite get what you need. Also, the imps are going to make me angry at these imps, so I might as well kill them. Hey, old no pound, welcome in. Sadly, 9 imps, not quite enough imps. I don't think we're getting level 2 from this. So we'll be looking for our last battle here. 1 grip. Alright, that'll do it. We just needed that little bit extra experience for the level. I hopefully saw some strong level ups there. Come on, red mages, don't be terrible. Red mages are terrible, of course. No strong level ups for me. Guaranteed strong level up on the fighter and white mage. Gives them a large amount of HP, but the red mages do not get that. And so they often come through here with no strong level ups until we get to Marsh Cave. Alright, that's an okay start. Is it annoying to switch versions and not be able to manipulate encounters? No, you get used to it. Each version plays very differently. Working on Garland, 10 HP at a time. A good hit here would be like a critical. Like that's really the only thing that's going to very much differentiate the fights from one another. A critical probably saves you an entire round, given how much extra damage it does. Here we go. Oh, is it printing out the extra bot messages? I think I can fix that during this upcoming cutscene. There we go. That should stop it. Oh man, Epic Name Bro with the knock-knock jokes on Garland. He was knocked pretty hard. To be fair, he's probably not very thrilled to hear those. But Dan is. Dan loves jokes. Alright, 1 loot obtained, 1 bridge. And also 1 princess. We gave the princess back, though. Princesses have a very high maintenance fee, and we can't quite afford one yet. Maybe someday, Dan. Maybe one day you'll have a princess of your very own. Out of the hardest working bridge workers in the world. It really looks like they're just beating the bridge with their bare hands, which is very cool in my opinion. The remakes kind of give them little hammers in the PSP version. It's not as solid. That's right, Reezy. The princess insurance fees really get racked up really fast. Gonna go ahead and get a stack of antidotes here. That will help me with avoiding poisonous encounters because I don't really care if I plow through them. And unfortunately, we do have to end trip here. The Coneria item shop does not sell a recovery item better than a sleeping bag, which is HP only. So this is my only way to get MP back before getting over to Provoca. Ooh, Leon got a strong level up there, so we have a one level up mage now. It's good to see at the start. How did Lucan foresee this? I think he just wrote down a whole bunch of stuff that he wanted to have happen. He foresaw a bridge being built. He foresaw somebody cleaning his house. He foresaw somebody doing the laundry. And some of those things came true. This cutscene is mandatory on GBA. PSP, you can skip the movie-based cutscenes. So you wouldn't be able to skip the bridge building sequence, but you could skip this and save about 90 seconds or so. It's a nice cutscene, though. They put a lot of work into it. Somebody is probably very disappointed every time that the cutscene gets skipped because they spent like months programming it. So this is for them. Alright, one bridge later. We're going to go back to our trip over to Provoca. Now, when I'm going over to Provoca, really you're just trying to get there as fast as possible. You do not want any encounters. Or at the least, you don't want super slow encounters like bunches of wolves. Lizard, he's not bad. I would maybe take an iguana. It's not bad as well. Super slow monsters I'm okay with. That's actually not as bad as it would be if there were regular wolves in there. That should be the Imp, Grimp Wolf, and Gurwolf pack, and all the regular wolves decided to take the night off. Softs, almost as bad as getting hooked on rubies. The two leading killers in the Final Fantasy universe. Alright, I'll take that. So we got one more set of creeps. That was not a bad walk over here. Let's take on our pirate friend Bicky and see what wonderful rewards he has for us. Hey, Glassjaw, welcome in. And last night go, we got up to 3 thieves on our Tower of Thieves, and then the 3 thief party was walled in after getting the TNT. So there was no way to get much progress in dungeons at that point. That was the conclusion of the Tower of Thieves, which is about where I expected it. more. There we go. Pirates down. Pretty sure I did not see any strong level ups right there, which is a shame. But we'll take a ship. We'll take one ship and a couple of 15 puzzles here. Looking for an emergency exit, which is a great time save to get. You lose probably about 2 to 3 minutes if you don't have this. When I could grab the Mega Elixir now. Actually, let me do that. I'm going to try this approach here. We're going to go for the faster solves so we don't have to do 2 more 15 puzzles. We'll sacrifice emergency exit, which is unlikely to get dropped anyway. So there we go. Go ahead, get those cleaned up. Mega Elixir goes. We just get the elixir in Phantom's room anyway. Pick up the temper spell for our red mages. The reason I kind of like that strat is it's my backup anyway, in case we don't get enough value out of the 15 puzzle. So if you've got a super fast first clear, you're looking at a lot smaller of a downside for not getting the emergency exit if you take that path. You're looking though at a little bit of a problem with Dan. Dan is not going to survive those shark hits. Got one save in there. Sharks are not terrible, but because they're difficult to hit, you kind of want to avoid them if possible. At least until you've got a little bit more levels or Thundara. Alright, that's pretty reasonable. We're going to be looking for an ogre fight here, ideally. Ogres and Grogers are the best monster to get right now. Groger at this point is kind of scary because you basically get one shot on that red mage that does not have a strong level up yet. Alright, there we go. We can take that. Like, this will be like a really good setup. Hey, Soundtown, welcome in. Alright, Dan drops some heals after this, and then we can go ahead, probably find Ogre Fight number 2. At that point, I'll have enough resources to go into town, get all my shopping done. Oh, that's perfect. As long as Eltix doesn't die. That's exactly what we want to see. Very nice. All right. Into Elfheim here. We're going to go ahead and grab a little bit of armor for our fighter, which will increase his odds of survival during the wizard battle. Actually, don't need to sell anything for a little while. Our inventory is pretty clean. Get all those. Get a stack of those. Get a stack of those. 2 more. That should be enough tents to last us until after we complete our mummy grind. Go up. Alright, so 1 tent there, 1 tent at Marsh Cave, 1 at Astos. Yeah, that should work. Will this run have some Agama facts later? Agamas play a very small part of the run, unfortunately. So we'll have a very abbreviated Agama fact session. We might have some more IFACs, though. The IFACs are more critical for the remakes. Alright, still only level 5. We need one more battle, I think, for level 6. One more good battle. Battle against wolves, not a very fun task. Hey Jack, welcome in. One of the nice things about this version is you can reset so quickly that it's better to soft reset around bad encounters, assuming that you've saved recently, than it is to try to run from them. Unlike PSP, where you're kind of stuck with the battles that you end up getting. But we are getting nothing but wolves. Come on, just give me some ogres. One little bit of ogres here. There we go. Because of the turn order for the Tempers, not quite enough damage to kill him here. We are 4 short. We can easily take care of that right there. Okay, now we just need like one more little bit of ogre. I don't want to go into Marsh Cave at level 5. We'd have a really tough time with the red mage that's at 38 HP. Now it picks the most inopportune moment to give me no encounters. And this is ridiculous. Alright. Don't get paralyzed, Dan. The name of the game here. Dan, you weren't supposed to get paralyzed. Now Dan's dead. Now Dan is broken. That would have been a really good fight for experience. Dan had gotten some better turns. You're definitely blaming Dan for that one. Alright, try number 2. At least get 1D off. Looks like we're gonna get both of them here. Okay, let's hope we get level 6 here. We do. Alright. That. Drop our tent down. So level 6 is a guaranteed strong level up for all character classes. And that means we get about 25 to 30 hit points there. That's why that level is so critical. Now, Marsh Cave time. Marsh Cave generally not terrible. It all depends a lot on what encounters that you happen to get along the way. That was a really good run there. Gargoyles are pretty fast. I'm going to go ahead and grab the extra broadsword for my other red mage. Might have a chance to use it in the wizard battle. Struggle level ups are kind of a struggle, so those are very similar, not just words, but also concepts. Phoenix down. Hopefully we don't have to use the Phoenix down at the wizard battle. It's better to have it for Astos. Let's see what we get. 2 wizards, a good start. Got the preemptive cure going. The preemptive death on Elitix. Okay, there's one wizard down. Alright, looks like we had 1 death, which is not the end of the world. But it does mean that Elitix is losing out some experience. Makes it more difficult to get good grinds for the mummies. Party bumped up to level 7 already. 1/2 of the poisonous party mix. Just the Muck and Arachnid. That is the big downside of getting those lower HP mages, that they really can't take any hits at all on the wizard fight. Makes it very difficult to have anything besides a at least 1 death encounter. Debating about whether I would take an ogre fight on the overworld if we got one going up to Astos. I think I might, with the way that my experience is looking right now. Right, we'll hope that Dan dies off during the Astos battle itself, but if not, the rest of the party needs a little bit more XP from ogres or something like a shark to make this a smooth trip up. Hey, Evan, welcome in. All right, that's a good one. We got 2 more ogres here. That's probably the level on Elitix. I mean, we know that 2 wizards is enough, and that doesn't necessarily translate into 2 ogres being sufficient, but it's usually a pretty good sign. I think we've had enough music randomization for one night. That was a good one last night, but that's probably as much as I could take on that. Hey, Riskier, welcome in. All right, we do get another ogre here. Hoping I didn't need to take the time to put the broadsword onto Leon, but it looks like we did. Not quite enough damage otherwise. Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. Do our second tent right there. Hey, Maelstrom, welcome in. Alright, Dan to the front, where he belongs. Leadership is what Dan's got excess amounts of. HP, a little bit less so. Okay, Pedro jumping the gun there without the tempers. Really does not do very much damage on Astos. Okay, Astos not casting Rub there in round 1. Remember, the ideal outcome is Dan dying. So if Dan gets rubbed, that's great. If anybody else gets rubbed, that's not as good. How far did the Thief Tower get? We got walled off during the third Thief playthrough. After getting the TNT and getting out to all of the accessible magic shops, there were no black magic spells for AoE use. Alright, come on, Dan. We'll take that. Maybe a little bit of time savings. We didn't need that last hit, but you know what? Dan sharing the experience with the rest of the team. Beautiful to see. Dan's so thoughtful that way. Alright, back to town. We need to get to town to get Dan revived. We do not have any Phoenix Downs left. We only get the one Phoenix Down. You might get one in the 15 puzzle, depending on what strategy that you use to do those playthroughs. Today I did just a first place finish for the Mega Elixir for cash, and I ended up not getting the 15 puzzle Phoenix Down for the B item. Where did Dan come from? So when I play NES Final Fantasy, we use Ace, Bill, Cal, and Dan for our 4 characters. A, B, C, D order so that you know how to reorder the party. And one of those 4, due to the lack of ribbons in the game, must be sacrificed to the forces of chaos at the end of the night. Usually that role goes to Dan. That would have been a great battle early on. That's the battle you want to see coming down to Elfland to get incredible amounts of experience. But now that we got level 9 on our red mages, we're good to go. I guess we'll pay to resurrect Dan this time. Next time, Dan, you're paying for your own trip. Thundara for you. We can't afford Fire Ray yet, but that's okay. I only have 1 tent for the mummies. That might be enough for 13. I would like to try the Null Frost strats for this route. Null Frost is great for a Lich approach when you don't have incredibly beefy red mages, which is usually almost all the time. There's 2 ways to get past the Lich. One is to have enough HP to be able to tank Blizzard, which is his opening spell. The other way is to get Null Frost off before he goes, or cast a spell, which is way more likely. The odds of red mages getting enough HP, in theory, it's only like 50-50. But for me, it's like maybe 1% at best. So I've learned that Null Frost is definitely the way to go. Surprising to see the creep can't runs at this point. They're incredibly slow. Should be able to easily outspeed them. Look at that one vulnerable blind old woman. And her valuable treasures just sitting off to the side. Disreputable light warriors might take them, but not us. We are only the most reputable of light warrioring teams. So we're going to help this old woman and leave her treasures alone. Also, her treasures take too long to pick up in this version of the game. I cannot confirm whether or not we stole a broom. Brooms are handy household items that anybody could have. She can't prove that broom was hers. At this point, there's less need to do safety strats on things like wolves because you can use Thundara or Fyra to one-shot them. Same thing with the aquatic creatures. Gerwolf you can't. Luckily, Gerwolf is slower than regular wolf. So if you happen to get rid of all the regular wolves, you should be able to run. Hello, Prince. I brought you some very deadly poison to try. So give me that key before somebody gets hurt. Hey, Magic, welcome in. And Dinosaur's noting the music seems slower in this version. It has a little bit of a different mix to it because they're trying to optimize for the GBA's really low quality speaker. And what happens is that you have to kind of overcompensate to make music sound passable when you've got a very tiny speaker. So when you play that at a large scale, then you have, let me get Fire on the way back. Play that at a large scale, then you have the problem of hearing all those little flaws that are introduced as a result of the down mix. So things like having to pump the bass really high and having to simplify some of the instrument waveforms. That comes out in what the overall mix sounds like when played through a higher quality device. Hey, Notice the Style, welcome in. Do I use a GameCube to stream GBA? Yes, I do. I use the Game Boy player attachment on the GameCube. I recommend that for pretty much any Game Boy, Game Boy Color, or Game Boy Advance game. Although amusingly, do not stream GameCube games on a GameCube. Use a Wii instead. The Wii has not better picture quality, but more reliability, so your game's less likely to crash when you play it on a Wii instead of the original GameCube. Use those to buy some Phoenix Downs. Great safety right there. You know what? I should make a note of doing this. I want to get potions here when I'm in this shop rather than go to the Elfland shop. So let's try to get some muscle memory for that. We just need a big stack of potions before going to Elfland to get our fire spells. And that way I can potion during the mummy grind and save all of Dan's MP for casting Dia. It is kind of a change in my route, but it's been so consistent that as long as I can get enough tents early on, I should be doing this every time. We could try to get Dan some levels here. He doesn't need levels right now, though. Level 9's required for the Red Mages to get Thundara and Fyra. Dan does need level 8 for Cura and Diara. But you can do the mummy grind entirely with Dia, which is harm 1, instead of getting harm 2. By doing it that way, you have really no difference in terms of number of turns. Diara not strong enough to ever kill a mummy, whereas Dia and Fyra put together wipes it out every time guaranteed. Go ahead, rob one dwarf, then rob all the dwarves down here. We're taking the entire treasury of the Dwarven Nation with us. By the way, for anybody that was watching the Final Fantasy 1 randomizer tournament match on Speed Gaming, is it over yet? I'm hoping so, because I saw them in Temple of Fiends when I was setting up my stream, and since they are in some of the later rounds, I am hoping that they are not stuck on Chaos for like an hour. Dwarven fact. Dwarves are completely immune to TNT. I don't believe that. I believe thousands of dwarves have just perished in this engineering folly. Or at least I hope so. Alright, thank you, Soundhound. I'm still waiting for the day when they get, with the Magic Shuffle, like nothing at all for spells, and then you can't get past the pirates. Which has happened very infrequently, but it is possible to see when you're in some of those more advanced randomizer seeds. There we go, grab some more stuff. Alright, plenty of items to sell off. Get my Fyrus. Hey Hedgehog, we will be doing saves and resets to avoid fights, but since we don't know where the fights are, I only do those when I'm traveling through areas that are very dangerous. So safety saves and resets are a way to skip past encounters, but it costs you more time when you can't predict exactly what step things are going to happen on. Hey Kisaragi, we finished 2 thieves, and then during 3 thieves, what happened was we got walled off with no attack magic at all through all of the first 6 shops. So at that point, there's no way to get attack magic without completing at least Ice Cave, and that's where it starts looking really, really unpleasant. I can sell those. Probably shouldn't have sold those, but I can. Get that cottage there. Alright, that's enough cash. I just need to get at least 2,000 for buying Fyra. So 1, 2. Looking good there. So we're going to head on over to Northwest Castle, get a mummy grind going. I'm going to be doing the level 13 strat, which is to get Null Frost on Dan before leaving Elfland. That way, due to my Red Mage's terribly low HP, we will not have to spend too long fighting Lich. If you happen to get immensely lucky, and I do emphasize how lucky you have to get enough level ups, then you can go at a lower level. Either a high level 11 or low level 12 usually works out pretty good, and you'll just have enough HP to tank Blizzard. That basically requires getting at least 1 more strong level up on my good Red Mage and 3 more on my bad one, which is definitely not happening. That's right, mummy grind time! Looking for a Fyra and a Dia to take these guys out. Sleep is a concern. And that is the biggest thing that could go wrong right there. The Red Mage getting knocked out, losing his round. Looks like it's up to Eltex to get this Fyra done. At this point, Dan really can't help out. The Dia spell does not do enough damage, even with 2 casts to kill them. How many strong level ups are guaranteed versus how many do you need to tank Lich? 2 are guaranteed, and you need 5 ideally. You can get away with 4 at times. but it requires that Lich rolls low on his Blizzara. So it's not a great strategy to try to rely on that. I mean, either way with Blizzara strats, what you're doing is rolling the dice, hoping for good Liches, and you have to keep rolling the dice every round. With Nullfrost strats, once you succeed on that Nullfrost, you're good. The guaranteed 2 strong level ups is enough to be able to tank a half damage Blizzara. Guaranteed. Alright, Eltic's getting a strong level up there. That really helps. 95 is looking a lot better. Not good. You'd want to be around like 130 here to have some confidence that Lich was going to work out without Nullfrost. But again, we're going for Nullfrost strats. Okay, Dan is level 10, probably going to get level 11 on this battle again. 13 is what we need. We're getting close. This is the one rare situation where I can double Dia because we'll do enough damage with the other characters to still kill the mummy. One more fire left on Leon, 3 on Eltix. There should be Dan level 11 there. Somewhat bad luck to be having our mummy count dropping. 2 to 5 mummies are possible in this formation. Equal odds of any of those numbers. So 2, 3, 4, and 5 all have a 25% chance. Tonight's names were chosen by chat, Soundhound, so no Final Fantasy references, except for Dan. Dan is from Final Fantasy 1. Technically, Leon's from Final Fantasy 2. That was a request. Ooh, nice preemptive. Preemptive guarantees that we get the fire off. One more fire before I have to tent. And what I think I should actually do, since we're close enough, like we're not going to get 13 here, do the tent now, and that lets me double fire for a lot of the mummy battles coming up. That way I don't have to worry about somebody getting put to sleep. Let's go left-hand side for luck. Right-hand side was drying up. There we go. See, this is what you do. You tap into the nice, fresh supply of mummies that have not been drained by all that grinding. And then suddenly you get a 5-pack again. Dan 12, so the next Dan level up, we are done. Ambushed. At least it's not 5 ambush. Big part to the time it takes for the grind is just the luck in terms of how many mummies show up. Making sure that you get towards the max end, 4s and 5s a lot. And also avoiding ambushes. Ambushes suck up way more time than you think. Just because of the monsters taking turn and then generally having to do extra healing afterwards. Alright. Pedro's still fine. Dan 13, we are done with Mummy Grind. Let us go back to Elfland, pick up the Null Frost spell. That also takes us right by the item shop, where I can buy gold needles. In this version, you want to have gold needles for Earth Cave, because of the chance of cockatrices showing up. If you don't have gold needles, then you're going to have to be basically resetting every time that you see those guys. And that is a fairly large percentage of the battles on the 3rd and 4th floors. The advantage of the Thundars, they're killing off the regular wolves, allowing us to run with a lot easier of a time. If both Thundars go off, then it should also kill the Gerwolves. And that way we need no runs at all. But you're kind of hoping for either the Flea working first, or the Flea working right after the Thundara cast. All the wolves here. Pretty much anything besides wolves would be preferable because they'd be much easier to run from. Hey, Beefake, welcome in. We may have tapped out on thieves last night, but they'll be back. We've got PSP runs at some point probably to remind ourselves about how good thieves are. Still need that Cura and Diara there as well. Alright, so sail. Over to miscellaneous junk here. Get about a dozen of those. Get 4 gold needles. Max out potions. Another stack of antidotes should be good. Make sure I save enough money for Null Frost, 2 3rd tier spells. We're getting Null Frost, not haste. Here we go. And also 4,000 at the end for the silver armlet at Melmond. One of the few times Melmond has something useful for us. Cura. Diara? Diara is decent for a very small amount of time. I could see arguments for skipping that and hopefully relying on the other characters to do more damage to undead monsters. But I find that Earth Cave and Ice Cave, there's so many good things to Diara in there that it's helpful having something for Dan to do that's productive. Oh, ambushed by Sahags. These guys are not the worst, but they're pretty bad. Alright, make it into Melon. We'll definitely be behind at Vampire. But we're looking to make up time on Lich, depending on whether or not this had an emergency exit to compare against. If it's an emergency exit, then it's really, really tough to keep up. That's 2 minutes right there. There's my silver armlet. Does a background in statistics change how you approach Final Fantasy? I think a lot of Final Fantasy running is more about learning how the game works and learning the details of the stats rather than the pure odds. Odds are a very important thing for routing so that you know what overall gambles make sense, but it's tough to do it on the fly in a reasonable way so that you're making better decisions. Like, I would much rather have thought about things in advance and kind of got a plan down than try to do a lot of improvising for the way that routes work. And most of the time when you need to do improv, it's because something's gone wrong and you're looking for backup strats. And those are generally not statistics based, but just like, what do I think was possibly going to work? Always the very last run that succeeds. All right, we'll go ahead and grab the Minotaur here. Not a terrible fight for the bulls. You do need some experience on the way down to hopefully get some levels with the Lich fight still rapidly approaching here. I'm going to skip the Coral Sword for right now at least. Trying to think about good spots where it's actually useful. For Vampire, Fire 2 is better. For Lich, you're going to be stacking everything on the fighter, so Temper is better. I think you could reasonably give it up. Well, if we're not going to be doing... We're not going to be doing ordeals. So we're going to miss out on an Ice Sword there. So what are my sword choices? I'm going to have Flame Sword from Ice Cave. I have the Dragon Killer from the Dwarf Cave. Might buy a Silver Sword at Carson Lake when I go through there. But I got the cash for it. I don't do pen and paper routing, but if you watch a routing stream whenever I'm planning out a approach through a game, you'll get a sense of the tactics that I use to work on things. So especially NES, I like to do it interactively with the game itself running, so I can try out strategies and see immediately how they do. Here we go, Vampire. Nice Soundhound. Always good to make enough for everybody. Fighter's down immediately. So we lose 1/4 of our damage there. Luckily, pretty much everybody does exactly the same amount of damage here. Ooh, Lutux. Just enough HP to survive. There he goes. Alright, Vampire down. Again, no emergency exit. So we're going to have to walk out from the 3rd floor back out of the Earth Cave. The emergency exit 15 prize is a 1 in 12 chance to be able to be done right there when you grab the ruby. So if you want to optimize for it, you're going to be spending a lot of time resetting at Bicky after having done a puzzle and not gotten your emergency exit. These guys are fairly tough to run from. They're not really dangerous. The paralyzation's an annoyance, but you're unlikely to die from images. That was a pretty good third floor. Second floor, the danger rate goes way down. I'm going to actually grab the coral sword after thinking about it here. If nothing else, when I go to trade for a silver sword, I'm going to need a lot of cash at Crescent Lake that I don't normally have. Okay, go ahead. Antidote on you. Excellent preempted there. Gargoyles are usually kind of fast, so being able to get a free round on them is nice. Hello, bat. Hello, snakes. That was more snakes than I expected. I'm always told that snakes are just afraid of you as you are of them, but I'm not seeing those snakes running. I think only one of us is running away. Gorker ambush, just unfortunate RNG. Except for bulls, there's not really encounters that you would want to see. And even these fights, because we have Null Frost, we are not really hurting for levels. We don't have to worry about getting experience before Lich. We would like some experience, because Elitex is otherwise going to probably die from just regular random encounters. But it's not required. GBA version having probably the highest encounter rate of any version of Final Fantasy. Definitely feel in places like Earth Cave, which have very long, winding passageways with generally large packs of monsters. There are some exceptions to that general statement. For example, Marsh Cave actually has very reasonable encounter rates in the remakes. They dropped it down compared to normal. And also because Sky Castle Top Floor was given an elevated encounter rate in the NES, the remakes actually feels really good. Hello, Titan. I have come to trade you rubies. Oh, that's horrible. See, it's horrible. A terrible sight. The Titan, gorged himself on rubies, has now gone to die. I feel like we are somehow partially at fault, but mostly we're going to blame the vampire. Shouldn't have given us those delicious rubies if he didn't want a Titan to choke on one. The Titan needs many things. Ruby Rehab, just one of them. Titan also in desperate need of interior decoration advice. Titan and Bahamut. Two people that should get together and maybe split that interior decorator fee in half. Starter, though. Starter has a pretty well-appointed cave here. The indoor fireplace. Nice big bedroom. An entire rumpus room. He's got the easy life here in this cave. Yeah, but Toya might need a little help too. I think though she's got all of the elements to make a good living room. She's got the skulls, she's got more skulls, she's got more skulls, and then she's got some kind of bull skull, which is like definitely what you want over your fireplace. There we go. This is a good walk. I want to get all the way to the cave here. Go ahead, drop our tent down. I don't need to save until 3rd floor, really. That's where the dangerous encounters start. The first 2 floors are potentially slow, but very little chance of things going horribly wrong. See, Rizu's got skulls. Do brooms talk backwards in this version? The dialogue is mostly unchanged for the remakes. They did expand some things for the storyline characters, but a lot of the surrounding dialogue actually didn't get much of an update, so if you see things in NES, it's generally very close in the remakes. Except for Garland, he doesn't knock people down, and that's a shame. PSP knocks people down again. And also Warmech is called Warmech, unlike this version which calls him Death Machine. Hey Sherzad, welcome in. Just in time to see us get destroyed by encounters on the 2nd floor here. These are such large packs of monsters that an ambush or a bad turn order can significantly add to your time. When I was doing actual grinding for any percent runs, one of the worst places for that is actually Kraken's floor on Temple of Fiends Revisited. Because all those encounters there have like 8 monsters in them. So like an ambush is suddenly, you know, an extra minute on that floor. Decent fight. That's not really a good fight. Wizards, you could at least have a pretty confident chance of not having anybody die on, but you're still looking at double Thandaras to get by them. These are not bad. Leaving the fighter poisoned here temporarily so I don't have to go into the menu as much. There we go. I want to combine the antidote with the save for the next segment. Hello, bat. The bat block. The bat blocked me in, causing me to get cockatriced. If we get both Thandaras off, we win. Which is the reason I would go for a fight like this. We need Elitix to go. Looks like things are going to be alright. You can afford to use a couple of spells on the way down to Lich. You probably only need about 50 MP on the mages to do that Lich fight. Because you're not doing attack spells, you're just doing tempers. It's a lot less overall load on them. Wormek is very good at hide and seek, I can confirm that. Wormek was definitely the hide and seek champion. Ghoulgeist here, not as bad as Spectregeist. She's a Spectregeist? This might... Oh, this is a Spectregeist. The Spectre went to white. That's right. Never mind. That's not the encounter you want. Here's another one where the monsters are very fast but not particularly dangerous. Okay, 82 for Elatex is not a problem yet. You start worrying if he gets down below 50. And we do have an Ether. Maybe 2 depending on whether I got 115 puzzle. You get a guaranteed one in Dwarf Cave. So you can have one person use up their MP and still be okay. Alright, nobody dies. I'll probably need to be more picky about the fights on the way through the rest of this floor. Yeah, we're not doing that. This is one of those fights where you kind of make a face at it. It's like, it's only 2 wizards, so it's not as bad as 3 or 4. Because you can melee them. And there we go. Alright, 4th floor done. 5th floor is where the cave gets easy again. So that's basically the spot where you have to stop worrying about things. Make it all the way to Lich, of course. They do potions here to finish this off. That way Dan's got a little bit more HP and MP left for the start of this fight. And now what we want to see is Dan needs to get Null Frost off before Lich goes. We get Null Frost, we basically win. Alright. Basically win it. Should save a good amount of time here on the Lich battle. Just need to work on our fighter's attack power. We're going to buff him up each round here with 2 tempers. And Lich doing a physical attack there is great because it pretty much prevents him from getting far enough into his spell cycle to get Thundara and Fire off. No, not the fighter. Alright. That's better. Okay, Hasty's got... At that point, a very scary situation going here, but we should be good. I think we got this. Fighter's not going to die from Lit 2 in this case, so we have Little to worry about for success on the fight. And there we go. Don't even get to see Thundara. And with that, our first of the 4 fiends has fallen. Lich is down. And Dan lives, that's correct. An immense fact that will be remembered throughout the ages. Or until everybody forgets about what happened here. Which is going to happen in roughly an hour and a half. Go ahead and swap you guys back. Alright, with that out of the way, we are going right to Ice Cave after getting our canoe there. We do not go to Ordeals because we're not doing class change for this. Not doing class change is a couple minutes slower than any percent, but it's an interesting challenge. You have a lot of restrictions on equipment and spells that you're kind of used to just saying, okay, I can get, Dragon Mail and Aegis Shield and Thundaga, and all those are going to be locked off. So far looking good. Get to our boat. Beholder Beheld is pretty good. I like that one. Big guy here, very annoying. Has the paralysis. He does nothing except for the paralysis glance. That's his only move. He doesn't even have a physical attack. Alright, now let's see what I want to do. I want to get... Because we're going direct to Ice Cave, I think I want to get a silver sword here to help upgrade my damage. We're not going to have the ice sword. That is the weapon that you get from doing ordeals. Ice sword, gold bracelet, and Zeus gauntlets are all not going to be available to us tonight. It's also nice getting a little bit of experience helping out with the levels before doing the very perilous ice cave. Pete are probably better to run against. If it was a pack of trolls, that would actually not be bad to do the fights. Trolls die pretty quickly to fire too, so you can take them down usually in one round. These guys are great experience, but they're just way tougher. About 300 total hit points. Man, I am shocked that nobody needed to die for that. Okay, go ahead and sell this old stuff. But 50 ethers. I don't want to buy too many Phoenix Downs there because we do need to buy a silver sword. Normally I'd like to buy a bigger stack than that. One of those, two of those, one of those, one of those, and 6,000 should be enough. I think it's only 4,000 for silver swords. 3,200 discount. Alright, that should be good. Do I bother getting Protera? Normally after the grind fight, I swing by Crescent Lake and get Thundaga for my Red Wizard. But if we don't have class change, then I don't really need to come back here. But missing on a Protera is kind of a thing. Protera is a great move for the White Mage to do, when there's not really any other useful action like on round 1. Just reducing the amount of damage that you take from physicals. Especially the fights like Kraken and Tiamat, where they've got lots and lots of attacks per round. There we go, liking that we're liking that silver sword. If we had an ice sword, that'd be better. It's like 23 damage for a silver sword, 29 for a flame sword, and 32 for an ice sword or so. You're definitely missing out by not getting that weapon for more deals. Okay, we should make it back to the boat there. And we're gonna head on up here to Ice Cave. Oh, come on. Just run away, guys. You don't need to be stuck in fights with basic aquatic monsters. You're stuck in fights with basic aquatic monsters. These hags are way too fast. Go. Make sure we've got a decent amount of HP going through. These are actually very difficult battles for the canoe. They took out the separation between southern and northern canoe encounters. There used to be different pools depending on what part of the world that you're in. So the easier pool in the starter canoe areas, and then the harder pool when you're going up to like Onrak and Lufanian, places like that. But now you just have a combined pool, and that means you can get some very, very bad encounters, or at least very difficult ones, with the canoe early on. That wasn't even the hard one. That was just like an average destruction. And all right. At least we're through the canoe section. Onto this area here, which is similar to the encounters around Elfland. So not anything difficult when you're walking in this little land section. There's my tent. And now it is time to begin the ice cave. Just want to see a nice fast run through here. No monsters. Let's go right to the eye. Alright, some unrunnable wizards to start. Better than cockatrices. So I'll give them that. The downside of wizards, even though they are safer than cockatrices, they are a lot slower because you cannot run from them. Running is an important technique to be using throughout most of the dungeons. one floor down. Almost. Actually, I think I want to go attack this guy. Running might not be successful, whereas we are guaranteed, unless he mind blasts us, to be able to take him down right there. Let's try that floor again. Ambush is what worries me there. Those are race and NES, which means they're going to do a large amount of damage. Paralysis is not likely, but the raw damage would be pretty extreme. You're talking about 250 to 300 damage. Yeah. Because of the images in the back, I'm not trusting running here. However, they should die fairly quickly to fires and DRs. 2 casts should be enough. There we go. Go ahead and grab our flame sword from the back. And time for Trap Tile. This is the most dangerous floor by far. Trap Tile not necessarily dangerous, especially when you can save and retry the encounter. The big thing to worry about is just going to be ambushes. With so many undead monsters, an ambush is almost certainly going to lead to a large number, if not everybody in your party being paralyzed. Good levels there. The levels actually are pretty useful for the upcoming eye fight. Just getting a little bit more damage in the encounters, and also being able to better withstand a Thundara blast if necessary. I think the Mind Flayer won that exchange. All in all, that was not a terrible ice cave. So you can see we probably could do it about 1 minute faster if we get better luck, especially with things like the wizard fights here. This is the case where it's sometimes beneficial to have more dangerous encounters, just because running would be faster to complete the fights. Like these guys, very dangerous. Let's hope we can run from them. Well, that mage isn't running. The rest of them are. We left him behind. Leon left behind in the confusion. Grab the money, the ice shield. We'll do our first eye fight here. Got about 160 health, which right now is going to take everybody to take him down. But hopefully over time we will see fewer and fewer eye moves going in, just because he doesn't have a chance to get moves off. There we go, 1 eye obtained. Let's begin our grind. So we're going to be here for a little while. We're going to go to level 31 on the White Mage. And this is where the route's very similar to the any percent route. The white mage does not need to class change in order to get the Hilaga spell. That's really critical. If you didn't have access to Hilaga, then your next best strategy is to hoard a whole bunch of Mega Elixirs for the Chaos fight. You can either get Mega Elixirs from grinding Zabides or from grinding the 15 puzzle if you're really good at getting first place times. But with Hilaga, you've got a much easier way of doing that battle. Alright, level 19, so we're getting about... Looks like we'll level up every other eye fight to start with. At level 25, we'll look at killing off one of the red mages to speed up the rest of the grind. If you only have 3 characters, you're dividing up the eye's experience 3 ways instead of 4. So he goes from about 800 experience per kill to a little bit more than 1,000. Right now, we just don't have enough HP to survive 2 Thundars, so I have to keep healing up in between each time. We do have a gigantic pile of potions as well as a gigantic pile of ethers, so you never really have to worry about running out of MP or healing at all from the rest of this point in the game, except in battle. That's where it's really crucial to manage your overall MP total, and that's why the route still picks up 1 elixir, or dry ether, or mega elixir, just something to do an MP recover on your white mage in the chaos fight. Alright, level 20 on everybody. I know Dan's a little bit behind the rest of the team. There we got 21 on everybody except for Dan. I'm going to give that one up. Faraga, not what you want to see. 90% chance that we would have had an ambush on those mages, so extremely unfortunate to see them get an attack in. Level 21 on everybody. 4 more levels until we can kill off a mage. It's looking like Eltix is going to be our sacrifice tonight, but it's really close. Eltix and Leon are both very, very similar in terms of HP, which is my primary way of deciding which mage gets to continue living. Hey, Greenleaf, welcome in. Looks like we're starting to get level 22 there. Yeah, we're still in a range where it's about 2 to 3 eyes per level up, so it goes fairly fast for the early leveling. And for the late leveling, because you kill a character off, it still retains a relatively rapid clip. Be 23 now. 2 levels to go. Decide Eltix's fate. I think he did not get a level up there because he's behind in terms of experience. So we'll see if one of the mages has got a significant advance. Ooh, it's 18 in favor of Leon. That's less than 1 strong level up. So it's possible to get a last second pass here. I might go even 1 or 2 levels past normal. With the downgraded weapons, we don't have the ice sword. I want to make sure that we don't fall back to having to do 2 rounds per eye. Go do a quick save here just in case we get an off-tile encounter. It's important to guard against off-tile encounters because every time you take a step away from the eye fight, you could be spawning something really dangerous in, like those mages we saw before, mind flayers, frosties. Many things could end your life in here. All right, 24. Celtics still 19 back. Looking grim. Dan doing respectably. I've seen the white mage actually have more HP than the fighter at this point in time, which is when you know you got a really buff white mage, because the fighter gets a large number of guaranteed strong level ups. It's unlikely to be the case that the fighter is behind because of bad level up ranges. It's more that the white mage got amazing ones. So we're getting to 25 now. Still 19 apart. Or at least take him to 26 here, it looks like. Four attacks per round with the fighter is pretty good. You would have 5 attacks with the ice sword, in addition to having slightly more base damage. So the ice sword would have a fairly good chance of one-shotting the eye at this point. So you're definitely feeling the reduced damage output from not having gone to ordeals. The problem with doing ordeals though in a non-class change run is that you really have a hard time making up the travel for that trip just for that one sword upgrade, even though it's really good in situations like this. Okay, so we're getting 26 now. 19 apart. What's keeping Eltix alive is the lack of damage on the other two characters. If the fighter were to get a 5th attack, then I would probably be fairly calm about killing him off. Right now, I'm a little bit worried. Voting Dan off the island. Oh man. Luckily, Dan has immunity. He cannot be removed. Dan will nap when he's tired. And he's tired a lot, so it's a good sign that he's still up and around. Shows that he's drank plenty of coffee in this morning. Might be a little bit jittery, but still fully functional with that hammer. Oh, Eltix actually passed Leon there. There's the 5th hit. We go kill Leon off now. I mean, they're so close. The red mages are so close to one another. Level 27 is what it took for the fighter to get 5 attacks with the flame sword. We though have to see the I do Thundaras or somebody else also get turns in. Make use of it. I'm not going to intentionally delay the battles for it, because at the end of the day, at this point, 4 levels, you're not going to save that many eyes to make up having to do a bunch of setup work for it. There's 28, so now we're talking about 3 levels. I mean, let's be honest, neither red mage is good. But at this point, Leon's back in the lead. Leon by 24, the biggest lead yet. No, only 19, never mind. We've seen 19 before. There's a Thundara. Again, I don't think there is enough time left for Eltix to really have a chance of being killed off here, but we'll go ahead and make sure everybody else is healed. Just in case. We're at 28 here, so only 3 levels left to go. Although Dan's the one that's important, so I should be waiting to celebrate level 29 when Dan gets it. 1 Evil Eye back. We're on level 30 here. Again, 31 is our target, and at least in PSP I go a little bit past 31, since there is not as many encounters. This version, you should be fairly safe with just 31 on the dot, especially on this route, where I'm going to need to pick up the flame armor in Gurgir Volcano. That means fighting 2 Agamas and probably running from a Red D. I don't think the Red D fight is the greatest idea in the world. Even though he's decent experience, he's likely to cause a lot of pain. The reason I need to pick up the flame armor and I normally don't is since we have fewer late game armor opportunities, we can't use the Opal armor in Sea Shrine or the Dragon armor in Mirage Tower. Our best combination for the fighter is going to be Ice armor and flame, or Ice shield and flame armor. There we go, that's the right order for it. Standing tough. We should be getting intelligence multipliers now, more so than before. Yep, that's pretty good. Decent amount of damage there. And Leon's looking great for HP. Eltix is actually not terrible. I've seen way worse red mages at this point for hit points. So I think we're going to have a nice setup for Chaos. Getting close, down to that last couple of battles before level 31. Eltix dies. Denied. At this point, not really saving us any eyes at all because we are so close to being done. This is the last one. $31 on Dan. There we go. Last task, just get out of here. We don't care about battles anymore. We're hoping for very fast runs, very simple encounters. Okay, let me change that. I am going to grab the 40,000 in here, which seems like a really dangerous thing to do for the amount of cash, but the reason is I have to buy an extra gold bracelet compared to normal. And this is probably the easiest way for me to do it when I'm going to Gaia very soon. How will the Evil Eye do the hokey pokey? I mean, he's got some things to put in and shake him about. He's got wispy tentacles, maybe some smoke breath. That's the other 10,000. But I could look at doing the Treasure Sun Cardia. There's only 20,000 there. But it could, with a stop in there, also net me an elixir. And that means I don't have to get the elixir in Phantom's room. Potentially saving me a gas D fight. Oh, it's so terrible with the Thundaras. I mean, Leon probably wouldn't have been better, but we didn't get to see Leon fail to kill the wizards. Now we get to see Leon fail to kill the wizards. I mean, they're really close. But they need just a little bit more, and that's not happening until they get an entire intelligence multiplier upgrade. Just put them around like 120 or so damage. Alright, let's go ahead 10 up. I'm going to be doing my shopping here. We have hopefully enough money for 4 pro rings, a bottle, and ideally 2 ruby armlets. It's even with all these levels, we're still having trouble running. It's the very high speed of a lot of the monsters in this version of the game. With the level cap being increased to level 99, they did kind of increase the expectations of you for any particular point in the game. Generally a couple levels higher than you would have on the NES version throughout. By a couple I mean like almost 50% more. Oh, that's not a good fight. This is probably the most damaging formation, even though it's not the toughest. Frost Gator and Red Caribou, I think, is the hardest formation that you get in the canoe section. But there's fewer turtle monsters that can appear for that one. Made it. Alright, to the boat. Now, hopefully, Sahag should not be as bad. I mean, that party mix is no poisonous party mix. One of those nacho cheese varieties of Chex Mix that is just like low quality cheese, really powdery. The poisonous party mix, bold and savory. That's the one you want to get. Alright, so we don't need to do cardia. Unless I want to try getting the elixir there instead of doing Phantom's room. I think we should do Phantom. It's the more typical route through there. So instead, that means we want to do Caravan first. So we'll fly south from here, go past Gaia, which we'll come back to after we get the bottle, and then loop back to Gaia for that. There's Gaia. There's Lufania. To the east should be our caravan spot. Perfect. It'll also give me a good idea of what my gold total is going to be like, whether we've got enough for all of the gold bracelets and pro rings. That should hopefully be enough. Get 10 of those, 10 of those. You could debatably argue getting more speed drinks. That's just unrunnable. Even though the Ogre Mage is not there, still unrunnable. Because you can debatably argue getting more speed drinks with the lower quality weapons. You're gonna have to work harder on the fiend fights. But I think you would probably not hit the base attack power cap before the fiends would be dead. Unlike Chaos, which is such a long battle. The drinks actually make sense. Hey, Safer, welcome in. Here we go. 1 bottle delivered. Bottle delivery service costs 40,000 in the Final Fantasy world. So bring your own bottle the next time that you go out. Two of those. All right, that should be good. Optimal you. Is that correct? Yeah, that looks good. Sell off all this old junk. Get rid of the tents now. Swarm Killer can go. Excellent. Making sure we have enough money to buy cottages here, so that I can only do full recovers instead of having the partial ones. There we go. Those are maxed out. Those are maxed out. Those are needed. And gold needles will get it on rack. So we'll be able to get everything in the game for item shopping pretty easily. One short second later, we'll go ahead and have our Oxy Ale as well, allowing us access into the Sea Shrine. We're going to do Gurgu Volcano next, though. So we have Elfland and Gurgu before we go and do the rest of the quests in this area. I do want to do Elfland first so I get the haste spell especially. Blizzara is not bad if we get encounters with monsters that are weak to ice. Got plenty of those in Gurgu. And we also have the potential for things like chimeras and nightmares still. There we go. Haste. Blizzara and Blizzara. Alright, you guys are all set. Hilara would be kind of nice, but going over to Melmond is a little bit out of the way. I'll be going towards Melmond when I get through Gurgu here. Taking as many lava tiles as we can to reduce the number of encounters. So we got 1 encounter, 2 encounters. 3 encounters. This is probably more encounters than you would see in the entire trip through on PSP. But kind of average for GBA. You get around 6 or so. And I might get more in this one because I do have to do 5th floor to grab the flame armor still. I do want to get the ice sword here, so that's another good pickup. I don't need the flame shield. So actually, don't need to dip into the Grey W fight. There we go. Got the Grey W anyway. Giant. Took forever to find him when we were doing the full bestiary run. Didn't get red giants until we reached the Temple of Fiends Revisited area. Fortunately, they're very common there. Agama fact. Did you know Agamas have a highly developed sense of smell? helping them find good deals at discount bakeries. Alright, there's Red D. Okay, good. Ice Shield, Flame Mail, that's what I want to have on. And because I didn't pick up the Flame Shield, it's not going to accidentally double up any of the equipment when I optimize, which is another important thing. Fire Elementals. I'm pretty sure these guys are 1 in 64. The only unrunnable on this floor. I mean, Red D's hard to run from, but these guys are actually literally unrunnable. Alright, we'll get one more Agama. But only because you were all very nice. Pedro, over 600 on HP. He's doing great for a warrior. He will definitely have no concerns on the Chaos Battle. Alright, good start on carry. Need to let the fighter go a couple times. Maybe another temper would have helped. I think at this point, though, it's not going to be worthwhile. There we go. Temper would have cut one round off. So I should have done the second round of tempers after that first set. But good enough to take down our second fiend. Thereby opening up our second bonus dungeon as well. Hellfire Chasm has the Final Fantasy IV bosses, and it also has the elusive fourth ribbon, allowing you to finally complete your complete set for everybody in your party. Alright, see you later, Guru. I'm gonna grab the Protera here. Or at least I'm going to see if I can grab the Protera. I actually don't know if White Mage can cast this without Class Change. I think she can, though. Yep, there we go. Much better round for a White Mage to do Proteras than it is to just hammer things. Drop them on for our spell selection. We got Kiraga for everybody. Diaga for the White Mage. Healer for the White Mage. I think I can get Faraga, but we cannot get Teleport. This is where sadness sets in. No travel spells for us tonight. And I'm pretty sure I cannot get Healaga or Blizzaga without class change. Waterfall time. We'll get the defense sword, the best sword we can actually use other than the Mazmune. Mazmune is kind of tempting with this route because you're going to be seriously underpowered for the Chaos fight. A lot less armor and a lot less attack power on things from the lack of class change. Was there a new and I missed it? One day we will find the elusive new riding the out-of-bounds bat combination. Nightmares are fairly agile. I'm going to try to kill them without Blizzaras. We'll see if this beats time-wise going for the spells. I think it does. If we can get consistent 200 plus hits, then going for the physicals is the way to go. And this bat, that bat is not the way to go. Alright, looks like Leon and Eltic's not quite consistent at 200 plus. Pedro should be. The fighter has a better weapon and way more base stats. So his damage should be not questioned. Also, Ice is the weakness of Nightmare, so he'd get a 50% bonus on top of his normal damage. Now, if you close your eyes around the corner, you can pretend there is an out-of-bounds bat coming. And everybody will rejoice. We'll also celebrate Cordelium with the host. Welcome, everybody. We got some Final Fantasy 1 going tonight. This is a no class change run, which is only slightly different from the any percent run, so you get to see the entire game as intended. But welcome, everybody. Hope that you enjoyed Cordelium. I believe doing some Final Fantasy 2 earlier today on PlayStation. It looked really exciting. This battle distinctly less exciting looking. Lots of birds, lots of jerk birds in that formation. Hey Cordelium, welcome in. Thank you much for the host, and I hope your stream went well earlier. Cordelium raid. Well, raid away, guys. Always happy to see you come over. Go ahead, grab our defender there. Optimal you. Oh, that's right. No defender for us. Defender for the ruse effect, but our fighter cannot use it without class change. We'll have to get the Sun Sword instead. Rarely seen backwards waterfall. This is what no class change makes you do. Those areas where you'd be able to just warp past the backtracking. You get to see every nook and cranny of the waterfall here tonight. Hey Death Zero, welcome in. For those of you that missed the intro while we were going over what happened, probably because you're watching some Twitch ads, we're doing Final Fantasy 1 no class change tonight. No class change is fairly similar to any percent on GBA, but a little bit harder. Without class change, you're missing out on a lot of good gear and spells normally accessible to your characters. Hey, Cordelium. At least you got some Final Fantasy 8. I haven't actually seen Final Fantasy 2 crash. That is a really big bummer. Is that like the game crashes, or something with the PlayStation discs just not being able to be read? drop my cottage down here. We're going to do the Sea Shrine. When we come out of the Sea Shrine, I need to get Hilaga for Dan. Hilaga on the White Mage is a surprisingly good ability that does not require class change at all in here. Alright, some gold needles as well, so those are good. Alright, Dan, have a good night. For the rest of you that are not scared of spooky ghost mermaids, she's just welcoming us into the Sea Shrine here. We get a slight downgrade. The NES version has a submarine. The remake's only a barrel. I mean, it's a good cutscene, but it's no submarine. Weird, soft reset and then just died. I don't think I've seen that before, but then again, there's not a lot of people that do Final Fantasy II these days. So it could be a lurking problem waiting to bite any one of us. Why don't I do speedruns in the PSP version? I do speedruns on the PSP version, and the PlayStation, and the NES, and the Famicom, and the Wonder Swan. Every one of those except the Wonder Swan, I will be doing a Final Fantasy mini marathon for, where I beat all the different versions of Final Fantasy in one sitting. That'll be end of December for it. Tentatively looking at December 30th for my date for it, but full announcement coming soon. Go ahead and take some Gersharks down. Gershark, a fairly good monster for experience. Again, we're looking for 33 on Dan here, which is what we need for Hilaga. Alright, one more Gershark. But I can't possibly eat another bite after this. Final Fantasy II is a fairly underrated game, but it suffered a lot from either the bugs that really impact the speedrun and make it so that it's a bit of a grind to get started in, or for like the early versions of the game. I'm talking about like the Famicom version. There are sections like Mysidia that are just really rough, where the game has really long battles and you have these very confusing dungeons that it tries to kind of trick you. There's like these rooms that you go into and there's nothing in them, but they will have 20,000 encounters. So I think they learned a lot from the Final Fantasy II experience. And when they did Final Fantasy III, they didn't fix the bugs, because again, it's an Asir Gabelli game, but they did fix a lot of the gameplay issues that I think people had trouble with. Alright, one more Gershark pair, but just one. Night 17. I've heard a lot of good things about Rosetta Stone. I've never used one of their products, but I remember like maybe 20 years ago they were like the advertised company for any kind of foreign language learning. Man, all these ghosts. Which one is this? This is the Game Boy Advanced version of Final Fantasy, which came out after PlayStation 1 but before PlayStation Portable. So it's got a lot of features from later Final Fantasies. The PlayStation 1 version was the last one that was very similar to the original. GBA and PSP added in an MP system instead of spell slots, and lots of items like Phoenix Downs and other consumables that are really handy to have. Nice there. My red mage is doing enough damage to guarantee kill the Arsahags every time. On NES, you don't have that guarantee because spells never change. Like, you just do a base amount of damage based on the spell. But the GBA and PSP versions adds the intelligence stat in, which means the more intelligence you have, the more damage you do and the more healing you do for spell casts. How's Kraken going to do tonight? I think Kraken is going to get some good hits in. We do have Protera, but the white mage is usually extremely slow. Generally the last person to go each round. Oh, these ghosts. The only unrunnable, other than ghosts, that is worse is probably the Wizzahag battle. Because that one doesn't even give you good experience. Ghosts, luckily with Fire 3, go down quite quickly. They hit hard, but they don't have a lot of HP. Alright, at this point, I'm assuming we have easily level 33. On the bottom floor here, I'm going to go ahead and grab the Power Glove, which does nothing on NES, but on the remakes casts Saber. An immensely good spell. It increases your base damage and your accuracy, allowing you to increase the number of attacks per round a character has and do more damage with each attack. And normally Saber can only be done by black wizards, which is kind of silly because they're never really attacking. But the Giant's Glove could be used by anybody, and it allowed me to stack my fighter to ridiculous amounts of damage. I think Leon gets the next ribbon there. Actually, let's optimal you to that and that. My white mage is going to have more HP than my red mages. Red mages were very heavily nerfed over the remakes. They're probably the best or second best character class on NES. And as time went on, they got a lot of their physical properties reduced, so less damage, less HP, harder for them to survive. And by the time you get to PSP, they're basically the same health level as like a black mage. Rellin, thank you much for the resub there. Glad to see you're continuing to enjoy the stream. I hope you enjoy many more as well. Fine. Let's just do Kraken. We are going to get Kraken here. Where's Greenleaf? It's time to be dapper. My Giant's Glove. We're going to start off with a Protera. Get those hasten tempers going. Protera. Hopefully going to save Dan's bacon next round. And I'll do a double round of buffs here. Normally, with class change, I would do a single round. The defense sword is so much better in terms of base attack power that it can overcome Kraken's armor. But we need a little bit more for the playthrough here tonight. Is bacon an Agama's favorite food? It's near the top of the list. Almost got him, Dan. You almost did it that time. There we go. One octopus has been defeated. With that, the third of our 4 fiends has fallen. We continue our round of unprovoked statue destruction. These are the bonus dungeons that are opening up. Bonus dungeons were added in GBA. They are optional dungeons you can do after each of the 4 fiends, and PSP adds a 5th one after all 4 are complete. Dan's 1 damage, that made the difference. If it wasn't for that 1 damage, I don't know if we would have won. Grab Helaga there on Dan. Now, it's a brief interlude. We need to do another quest to get into Tiamat's dungeon. We've got the cube already. We get that from the waterfall before going to defeat Kraken. But the chime is in Lufania, and the only way to get the chime is to visit the town of Melmond. Melmond, of course, the least... well, it's just the worst at everything. It's got no redeeming qualities whatsoever, except the fabulous, amazing, wonderful, somewhat nice to be around Dr. Oon, who has a pretty pleasant smell. Dr. Oon helping us out with those language lessons. I think it's all a scam. I think Dr. Oon is paying the Lufanians to pretend like they can't understand people, and that way he can charge for his lessons. We've arrived. Let's go see what our walk is like. The only unrunnable on the way here is going to be Zombul Troll. If those guys pop up, then we have to do the fight. Otherwise, we can run. There they are. You don't even need to bother. Baraga's enough to take him down. Color's one of Melmond's many problems. The national shade of Melmond, putrid purple. The animal mascot of Melmond, the dead fish. Get another round of these guys. They're at least good experience, but at this point you really don't need XP at this level. There is plenty of experience in Temple of Fiends as you're walking down there. That's a good point, Iron Kaiser. We might not actually be learning a language. We might just be learning a secret handshake that allows us to get into town. Here we go. Time for a toga party. We might get double toga partied because we do not have teleport. Well, there's the one toga party. And looking like they're setting up for 2. Alright, chime obtained. Oh, the double. If only we could nuke this town. But we cannot get the nuke spell without class change. There we go. Finally free. Hey, look, a Tyro. No stakes for us. We did get some Agama meat back in Guru Volcano. So we're still good for a while. We made Agama jerky. Some Agama burgers. Agama burgers on a grill are one of life's better foods. So close. One step away from the zone line, which would have guaranteed me not getting zombies. And there we go. All right, over to Mirage Tower next. With the chime, we can go ahead inside. There's a couple of really good treasures, but we really can't use most of them. Let me actually cottage up to save some ether time. I got cottaged recently, but I think we used a bunch of Faragas there. So normally I would be getting the Aegis Shield. Can't get that. Normally I'd be getting the Dragon Mail. Can't get that either. But I can get the Sun Sword. And it's an interesting question whether you want to go to the interior section, which is probably 3 or 4 more battles, for a Sun Sword. Like the only upgrade that the fighter has until Mazmoon. It's like very, very tough decision. But I'm going to go ahead and pick it up tonight. I think it'll work out in our favor to have more damage. And I'll just skip the Mazmoon when we get to Tiamat's floor. Here's a spot where Thundag will be really good to have. A lot of these enemies too difficult for our team to successfully run from on a regular basis. I'm just going to clear them out as quickly as we can. Vampires and guards are a very good experience. Chimeras are decent, but they take a little bit more effort to take down. And then usually everything else I can run from. Not too bad. Chimera could be up to 3 in that pack. Like that. Hoping Dan is the difference maker in this fight. Dan's 2 damage, I think, is going to swing things in our favor. Man, Dan's been working out. It's a very solid hit for a white mage. Oops, don't need the Dragon Mail, just need the Sun Sword. There we go. Upgrade you guys. Even though the Sun Sword is not strong enough to overcome Tiamat's base damage unaided, it's a fairly nice improvement. It's 6 extra attack power over the Ice Sword. the Robot of Doom onto Blue D. See if we can get away from these vampires. Normally too fast to reliably escape from, but 3 vampires is not enough experience to be really worth it. We did it, Dan. The champion. Alright, Blue D. Hopefully just don't get double thunderbolted here. Looks like we're gonna be fine. Without as much resistance gear as we would normally have. We don't have the Dragon Mail, which would get me lightning resistance. It's a little bit harder to deal with some of those monsters that are using that element. Fortunately, they're very rare. Almost every monster in this game is either fire or ice. Oh man, the hardcore Manticores right in the face. I'll leave the fighter poisoned until we can get the ribbon. That way I can combine 2 menus together. Now, normally at this point, I would not have the ribbon on the fighter. The small number of battles where he needs it are Phantom, Lich 2, and Chaos. So you want to have that red mage at the bottom stay alive. But the way it's going to work tonight is, with no class change, you don't have the gear needed for the fighter. And so the red mage becomes a much earlier sacrifice. He'll probably be dying in most of the boss battles. Ooh, another Gurnaga. Gurnagas are very good experience and relatively tame. Yeah, the status name was something from earlier Final Fantasy games, and I don't think they really need it because they do have the graphical display on top of the character about status elements that they have. But they do that a lot. Like, even later Final Fantasy, like the PlayStation ones, you'll see that quite frequently. There is my antidote. Give him another Hilaga, why not? We'll do right up here. The Mind Flayer is actually somewhat scary. You've got Mind Blast as a very common ability that they use to potentially get you into stun lock. Ooh, Hermes shoes. I would have been really happy to see those way earlier in the game. Before Lich would be a great time to get those. Unfortunately, the only way to get that is through the 15 puzzle. And you generally don't want to spend time on that when you have more valuable prizes that you can get from that same game. We'll kill you. I didn't want to kill the soldier, but he's making me do it. Now, 5th floor, home of the dreaded Warmac. Is this a Warmac? It's not a Warmac. You're stuck in this battle. Elementals are runnable, unlike any other elemental by themselves, but they've got very good agility. Too good agility. Come on, that's 12 can't runs already. Can't runs. $20. 24 run failures in a row. Definitely a new record. 27th try run. Good job, everybody. We went from probably gaining a minute or so on that split to losing probably a minute and a half. All on one air mental battle. Wolves are a very early game monster that are incredibly fast. Sahag's another one. But generally by this point, except for like Frosties, and it's not the total number of run failures, but just the total amount of damage they do, there's not a lot of things that you have that type of a problem on. And go with the single buff on Pedro here. And we do have more tempers coming from Leon, not from Electix. Sacrifices had to be made. Okay, one more round should do it. Just in case we have to get the temper off in advance. Didn't need it. Alright, T-Mat's down. All 4 of our fiends have been defeated. We have run out of fiends. Everybody celebrates, even Dan, and even Electix. For some reason, thinking that they contribute to the battle in any way, shape, or form. And see you later, Sky Castle. We are done with that. Go ahead back to our airship and fly on down to Temple of Fiends. I guess Dan did heal and look stylish in the process, which is more than Electix can say. Go put some better stuff in the front, so we want that Giant's Glove up there. Yeah, let's get Giant's Tonics speed drinks near the top. Pretty good. No. They're imps! We can crush them with our ankles. Does the Crystal Restoration music only play in the PS1 version? I think it plays in Wonder Swan as well. The little jingle that happens each time that you do it. The remakes after PS1, GBA and PSP took it out for the cutscene to do the bonus dungeons. Will be saves coming across this floor. Frosty's not a monster that you want to face. They're incredibly fast. I had the button down. I had the button down. What is the hardest restriction you could do? I could come up with a lot of stuff that's really hard. I mean, if you look at my archive of challenge week runs, there's probably some good stuff in there that made the game significantly more difficult. Alright, made it up to 3rd floor. This one you also want to saves come on. This time, instead of Frosties, it's Gasties. And there are fights that you can take, but most of them are going to be Gasties. Hey, Dragonfire, welcome in. Alright, that's Badmen. The Badmen, not so bad. I would take Badmen over Gasties any day of the week. I also take Fighter and Mage. How far up the tower did I get last night? We got pretty walled in once I got to 3 thieves. There were no attack spells in the first 6 towns, so you know that at that point there's very little you can do to advance. You would have 3 thieves, no spells, and you'd have to at least get through Ice Cave to get the floater to get access to your next available town. The eye is undead, so you can do some good damage here with Diaga and Viraga. Which is good, because the fighter is probably not doing very good damage at all. You have Excalibur, which has bonuses for every single element. Then you would get a 50% bonus on the eye, or on the Phantom. Can I solo the game with 1 fighter? I could. But it would take a really long time. Alright, Badman's okay. We need to grab an elixir or a dry ether, which are the 2 items in this room. Either one will let us do the chaos battle. And we made it. Alright, back to 2nd floor. A little bit of a breather here, even though these are not great encounters. You've got good tools to deal with them. Also, zombies have a 1 in 64 chance of dropping a Mega Elixir, which allowed me to have skipped that previous battle. Alright, Rizu, have a good night. Thanks for hanging out. Mega Elixir, of course. The 1 in 64, delivering. So now we're really set for chaos. Mega Elixir is slightly better to have because you can throw it 1 round later. Elixir you have to throw before you get the White Mage completely out of MP. So if you make a mistake, you got 1 round without Healaga. Whereas Mega Elixir, you don't have that possibility. Yep, we actually got the Mega Elixir. Not the first time that that's happened. They're very good at it. But I have to commit to getting the Elixir on the previous floor, so I can't gamble on Zombie D's even showing up, much less dropping one. The ice shield drop as well. Ice shield totally useless. Back to our first floor here. So again, the Frosties are what we need to escape to come across. Purple Worms are unrunnable, but they are not a bad fight. Like these guys right here. That's fast enough that it's worth it over a reset. Two Purple Worms, maybe a little bit more marginal. I mean, they're very good experience, but we don't really need levels anymore. We've got enough HP on Leon, and I'm not worried about my red mage during the Chaos battle. And Elitix really doesn't have much of a chance. What are the major differences between a casual run and a speed run in Final Fantasy? I mean, I think the biggest ones that you notice are that the speed runs are much lower level. They're not getting very many of the items, and they don't get very many of the spells. So you have a limited arsenal to work with. Now, the way that you actually succeed in that is you know the game mechanics deeply enough to know what encounters can be safely handled and how. And you also know how to abuse things like stacking lots of buffs on top of each other in this version, or PSP, or NES encounter manipulation. Is there an enemy that can drop a good weapon or armor? I mean, there are some decent armor pieces and weapons that can be dropped, but they are all on bosses. So like a regular encounter is pretty much never worth grinding. The Mega Elixir on the Frosty is the best thing that a regular enemy has. If you don't have a mage with travel spells, like we don't have one tonight, Purple Worms do have emergency exits, so you'd have some way of at least leaving the dungeon. Are you supposed to stack buffs? You're supposed to buff. I don't know if you're supposed to stack for them doing the balance. Go ahead and pass round 1 on Dan. We don't need to preemptively heal Aga here because we don't know whether Lich is going to nuke us or not. Dan's 2 damage. He's a helper. Did I skip all the story? Pretty much. I do not talk to any non-optional NPCs. And whenever I can go through cutscenes, I mash as fast as possible. Come on, Pedro, get a turn in. No! We failed to get the nukeless Lich. This version is not a big deal because Lich actually does not have enough intelligence to max out the nuke spell. On NES, you can do a max of 400. On this version, it's like 320 max. Agamas. Agama fact. Did you know? The Agama uses its tail for balance, for stirring pudding, and for reaching books off of high shelves. True facts. We're going to go ahead and grab the Pro Cape here. Pro Cape gives me 8 extra defense on the White Mage. And that means like Kraken 64 less damage, carry 48, quadruple red D ambush. That is a solid encounter there. I don't even know how easy it is to run away from those. Very unlikely to see something like this. Pretty sure this is the one in 64 on the floor. are other monsters, Mr. Crimson, that tell you about the story, but they're not required. So you have a lot of like flavor text and lore and things that, unless you're going around clicking on every NPC, you're unlikely to see. Doing other games like this, I usually get a lot of time investment into any RPGs that I do to make sure that I can give good commentary and tell a good story. Greenleaf is only here for the Dapper. Rocket's gonna hurt Elitix a lot. Rest of us with Proterra are gonna be in pretty good shape. Do I play new RPGs blind or with lots of info? I like doing blind playthroughs, but it's very tough with the way that, trailers spoil a lot of things. You see games being played on services like Twitch, so actually getting a truly blind playthrough is pretty hard. And to some extent, I feel like games are now designed assuming that you're going to have all these resources. And so they don't feel as bad about putting like really cryptic and hard puzzles in. Alright, Kraken's floor. The dapperness is approaching. Our dapper meter is going off the scales. That formation right there, this one. This can cost you so many frustrating time losses on GBA. Just has a very high encounter rate, and that formation has so many monsters. It can take quite a while before you actually get to run. Last heal before Kraken here. Let us dapper. Alright, that's not a terrible start. The fighter is the best person to be attacked if anybody's going to be hit, because of his superior armor class. You think 6 Watermentals are worse? Like, they at least died to Blizzara, so they've got that going for him. And welcome in, Dragon Dark, by the way. Do ninjas and thieves have a better chance of running on the remakes? They do. They made the thief a little bit better. He's still not good. The thief is still by far the worst character class. But he's not as, like, far off from everybody else. Finally, Kraken picking on somebody his own size, Dan. Leon with the kill! Leon got Kraken. Good job, Leon. All 4 of the Final Fantasy 4 fiends are in this game. You just gotta search hard enough for them. Alright, should be good enough for team out here. Alright, this could kill Electrix. No, good. Nobody baned. Not even through knot ribbons. Also a good start. A fairly good luck for the Fiend refights here. Been very smooth so far. We've had a great descent down to Chaos. Chaos, though, is a very long fight, especially when you have poor weapons and armor like this party is going to have. I need to work a little bit on healing here to make sure that we don't die during the battle. T-Man has a lot of very dangerous attack skills. Her spells are not as bad as the skills, but with the setup that we've got, we are very vulnerable to spell damage in general. There's the Thunderbolt. Maybe Electrix will live by a little bit. He's got this. Oh, this would be amazing if Leon gets the kill again. Leon. Not enough. And there we go. Tiamat's got a ridiculous amount of HP for the refight. They buffed the base fiends and they buffed the refights, but especially Tiamat too. The unrunnable purple worms. The best experience in the game, excluding Warmech, but unrunnable. So this is a slow fight we have to take. Purple Worms down. Purple Worms and Iron Golems, probably the 2 fights you would not want to see right there. Okay, we already have the ribbon on the fighter, so we don't have to move that around. It is time for our final battle here tonight. Can Dan, all by himself, defeat Chaos, who's got 20,000 hit points in this version? It's going to be an epic struggle. Let us find out how it goes. Alright, so you're gonna Giant's Tonic Dan. Got those Helagas going. You're gonna Giant's Tonic yourself. And you're gonna Giant's Tonic on Dan here to start. Okay, Electrix should survive this. Very unusual for Dan to go so early. We're losing a lot of value out of that heal. You're all set. Those gloves going. Electrix down. Dan again outspeeding everybody. That's really weird. I'm sure he's got his reasons. Dance load. Maybe that'll help. Doesn't actually help. Slow only impacts the number of attacks that you have per round. We do fully catches here on healing, so now we are maxed out. Dan being fast is only really a problem if he's so fast he outspeeds Chaos one turn. Because you want to have good alternation between taking damage from Chaos and then Dan healing it up right afterwards. Pedro continuing to work those giant skulls. We're going to be maxing out on base damage probably next round. Hard to estimate because you come in here with different number of spell casts on those tempers and sabers, different base stats, and also different weapons. In this case, we're using Sun Sword. Start throwing speed drinks. At this point, I can go over to attack mode. Perfect timing on the Cure 4. So Chaos got no HP back. He's still at 20,000. And we're going to be doing 2,500 around here. It's going to escalate until we're about 4,000. Those speed drinks increasing my number of attacks by usually 2 per use. It's 1 base, and then we have our total attack count doubled thanks to the haste spell. There's 5,000 damage in. Hey, Koopas, welcome in. $8,000. $11,000. Got one more Healaga. I could do this without the Mega Elixir, but for safety, we should still Mega Elixir after this round. Up on 15,000. So 2 attacks to go. Does Chaos have a bird in his stomach? He might. He eats a lot of things. 19,000. This should do it. Be a low 255. That'll be a fairly respectable time for no class change. There he goes. 255.03, in fact. Excellent time down there from Chaos.